Thank you for coming to this Responsible Government Coalition news conference. On April 26, I wrote a letter to NESD Superintendent Dr. Brian Gotardi. Here are some selected quotes. Dear Superintendent Gotardi, I am writing concerning the sex ed curriculum decision currently scheduled for a vote at the NEISD Board of Trustees meeting on May 9. I respectfully request that this vote be postponed, particularly because research evidence shows the recommended program, Draw the Line, Respect the Line, does not help girls. Documentation for Draw the Line, Respect the Line is enclosed. Documentation for Heritage Keepers is also enclosed. After you determine for yourself that Draw the Line does not help girls and that a program such as Heritage Keepers can be effective across age, gender, and race lines, I ask you to consider postponing the vote and to refer this back to the Student Health Advisory Committee for additional review in light of the concerns that have surfaced. I believe you and the board could be spared a significant amount of negative publicity if that action is taken. If we do not hear in writing before Wednesday, May 4 that the vote will definitely be postponed, we plan to hold a news conference before May 9 to bring our concerns to the public. Our desire and preference is to have private dialogue leading to acceptable resolution. I hope that can be your desire also, end quote. A similar letter was sent to each member of the school board. Their letter included this sentence: I ask you to consider personally contacting Superintendent Gotardi and encouraging him to refer this item back to SHAC for additional review in light of the concerns that have surfaced, end quote. Members of the Responsible Government Coalition have met in person with the majority of the trustees as well as with Superintendent Gotardi. We did not receive word that the vote would definitely be postponed, thus we are here today. There are three primary concerns. First, the recommended program is inferior to other available programs. Second, the issue of parental rights. Third, a conflict of interest. I will briefly address the inferior program. Kelly Gretchen will speak to the parental concerns and to the conflict of interest, and Mike Knufke will give a brief closing statement. Five years ago, George Hill played for the San Antonio Spurs. He was one of Coach Pop's favorite players. But on draft day in 2011, George Hill was traded for Kawhi Leonard. George Hill is still a good player, but Kawhi Leonard has become an all-star. I have studied the Heritage Keepers curriculum, and I believe it is as superior to the Draw the Line, Respect the Line curriculum as Kawhi Leonard is to George Leonard, as Kawhi Leonard is to George Hill. Both are evidence-based. Both believe students are capable of drawing a line, setting limits, choosing to not have sex. Let me cite 3 points from the research evidence for Draw the Line. Number one, I quote, our findings suggest that Draw the Line curriculum produced several positive and important behavioral benefits among boys, but not among girls, end quote. That is to say, Draw the Line worked for boys, but not for girls. That was the result 3 years in a row. We all know it's girls who get pregnant when teens have sex. Point number two, again I quote, contrary to expectations, we found no effect of condom use at last intercourse for boys or girls, end quote. The percent of students who didn't use condoms was the same as for those who took Draw the Line as it was who didn't go through Draw the Line. The teaching on condoms had no behavioral effect. And point number three, I quote, we have also experienced a high level of non-participation on the survey at baseline. 24% of students who returned consent forms were denied participation on the survey. Although we do not have demographic data on these students, we do know that the majority of parents who refused participation did so because they felt their children were too young to complete a survey on sexual behavior, end quote. Now let me report the research evidence for Heritage Keepers. One year after the program ended, students participating in intervention were less likely to report having ever had sex. They were 3 times more likely to abstain from sex than non-program students. Secondly, Heritage Keepers is equally effective across age, gender, and race. Heritage Keepers helps girls as well as boys. That makes Heritage Keepers far superior to Draw the Line. There are 2 additional points for Heritage Keepers. The Texas Health Department has money allocated to pay for public school training in Heritage Keepers and will also provide material for the students. This saves the district's costs of implementation. And finally, Heritage Keepers does not advocate condoms. This removes a major stumbling block for parents who chose the non-participation option. I submit to you that Heritage Keepers is a more effective and clearly superior curriculum. I believe the school board should postpone the vote and refer this for further study. If the board does not postpone the vote, I believe the board should select Heritage Keepers instead of Draw the Line. As the signs say, choose a better program. Help our girls too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Kelly Gretchel, and I'm a parent here at Northeast ISD. Right now I have 3 children who will eventually attend Johnson High School. We're here this morning because the school district we trusted to keep our kids' best interest at heart seems to have made a few missteps. The middle school sex ed program, Draw the Line, Respect the Line, was not chosen for its merits, but instead it was chosen because professional sex lobbyists sat on the deciding subcommittee and pushed this inferior program through. This SHAC subcommittee is intended to gather a diverse group of parents, teachers, coaches, and community members together and not have biased discussions about sex ed curriculum, which best benefits the students of Northeast ISD. So far, I have been able to identify that at least 20% of that very important subcommittee is staffed with those who have a financial interest in which program is chosen. Every meeting for months and months, these salesmen and women have sat at the subcommittee table and advised the vulnerable subcommittee because they sat at the table. There were no frank discussions about the sex ed program. Because they sat at the table, certain programs were not even considered. Because they sat there, the SHAC recommendation, Draw the Line, Respect the Line, cannot be taken seriously. Who are these professional sex lobbyists, and why were they allowed to sit on the SHAC? That is a question for the school board. We have asked every member that has been willing to speak with us. One board member told me very simply, when I explained to her the people that we knew, was these were only the people that we knew about. My question is, how many more are there? First, we have Diane Bulliard. She is an NEISD nurse who sits on the Healthy Futures board. Healthy Futures president is Janet Riolini. She is the author of the Big Decisions curriculum, which is the high school sex ed curriculum. Janet Riolini has been very open in her support of drug-based curriculums with an emphasis on condoms. What a better way to make sure your program you write gets into the schools than have somebody who works for you sit on the deciding committee. Next, we have Mario Martinez, who is a program manager for Project Worth. Project Worth was founded by Janet Riolini again, and we can see that she has put another one of her cronies in the SHAC. Mario would sit at all the meetings, and from what I observed at these meetings, he basically led the conversation on which programs were good. He even was chosen to present the Draw the Line, Respect the Line to the entire SHAC once he had convinced the subcommittee of its effectiveness. Lastly, we have a gaggle of UT Health Science Center employees. Usually Belinda Hernandez or Joette Garza would sit at the meetings and reassure the subcommittee of UT Health Science Center's support. It sounds like a positive thing, but UT Health Science Center needs NEISD to be their cash cow, because UT Health Science Center is already slated to receive $5 million in grant money. Grant money that they won because they already had NEISD district to implement their hand-picked programs. My district, the district where my children go. You see, folks, if you follow the money, you'll see that $5 million is riding on this decision, and that parents or a subcommittee have never been the major factors in this decision. Money was. I say the school board is required to investigate, required to answer these charges, and required to revisit the decision which made school sex ed program Draw the Line, Respect the Line chosen. This is a dirty program which dirty money and a corrupt subcommittee picked, and it's unacceptable. I'd like to speak on parental rights. There are over 70,000 students in any ISD district, and every single one of them deserves the best curriculum. But how do we decide what is the best? Is there a small group of 7 people tucked away making all those decisions? Shouldn't the parents have a voice? The answer is, by law, the parents must be informed and must have a voice in curriculum decisions. Texas Education Code 28.004 states that the parents must represent the majority of the SHAC, that they must be notified of a change in curriculum and told how and where to participate. They must also be able to review the curriculum. This is the law. Did any ISD SHAC follow the law? Well, the subcommittee that chose Draw the Line, Respect the Line did not have a majority of parents present. It did not even have a parent representative from each cluster, which is roughly each high school in any ISD. Instead, the subcommittee had professionals whose job was to sell their services and products and take up several chairs. While other subcommittees on physical ed or nutrition languished with only 5 or 7 people sitting at their table, sex ed subcommittee table was packed with representatives from the very companies who are selling these sex ed programs, not packed with informed parents. Nope, not very many parents at all. Maybe there were so few parents because the district did not follow the law and notify any ISD parents that a special subcommittee was gathered to make a very important curriculum choice. Parents were kept in the dark about the subcommittee's proceedings. Minutes were not posted, and special meetings where all the decisions were made were held before the public SHAC meetings. If a parent accidentally stumbled onto SHAC, they were not allowed to view what the subcommittee was working on. If they joined the SHAC subcommittee, then they have to first apply, and then they would need to be appointed by a trustee, which is unlikely considering the subcommittee had already been stacked with individuals interested in their own financial gain. How can the school board claim that a program was chosen by parents when the parents were the only group not represented, and certainly not as the law requires them to be the majority? The school board has no choice but to investigate why parents were given such little consideration and appoint a subcommittee that follows the law and adequately represents the parents of any ISD. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Gerald. Thank you for all of you that showed up today. I hold in my hand a letter from Senator Donna Campbell of this district, also co-written with Ken Mercer, the Texas State Board of Education, or Education District number 5. And Donna and Ken spell out very clearly what was just mentioned by Kelly and Gerald, and that is, this process has been usurped. This process has skipped the parent. This process has been absolutely destroyed because the parents need to be the majority on these boards. And so what I want to do is I want to talk about 2 or 3 things and wrap up. First of all, it's interesting that the majority of the individuals on these SHAC boards need to be parents. But what's the challenge? The challenge is like the challenge today. We had 3 people that were supposed to speak, and they had ball games with their children. Parents are very busy in today's world. It is a very, very busy world. And it's difficult for parents to put up with this kind of time when they're raising kids. So one of the things that we're asking everyone to do is I have a call to action for citizens, for parents. They need to hear, the board needs to hear from everyone here. They need to hear everyone listening to this video or watching TV. They need to hear from you because that's one of the problems. The apathy has set in maybe, or perhaps you're so busy. The key that I heard though, and I want to leave you with, is 2 things. Follow the money and worry about your elections. Follow the money. Kelly made it very clear that the money is already $5 million on this, and someone is trying to push their agenda. That someone or that person or that entity is Healthy Futures Texas, Planned Parenthood, and that whole side. They are pushing this because they wrote a piece of this with Janet Riolini. The other thing that I want to point out is that they usurped, as I mentioned, the parents. The parents did not get a chance to really be the majority of these SHAC discussions. And the last thing I want to point out is we have met with 4 board members, and here I got to tell you the truth. I never heard that it's about the kids. I heard time and time again it was about, the parents want us to do this, and some parents don't want us to do it. I heard the discussion about the pressure. I heard the discussion about all these things, but I didn't hear about the youth. And that's our angst. That's the issue. The issue is talking about Herman, who needs a condom put on, is not curriculum for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And that is the issue. So what I would urge everyone to do is to call Brian Gotardi. He is the superintendent for the Northeast Independent School District, and I have board members here, and I would encourage you to call your representative, call the board members, and ask questions. I'm not going to be so presumptive to think that you are against this. Take a look. But if you're anything like me and the other people standing up here, it was eye-awakening. And so that's what we urge you to do. So please call them. If you don't know the information, don't have the information, if you write this down, you can call the superintendent, Brian Gotardi, at 407-0541, 407-0541, or the main switchboard is 407-0000. And I urge you as parents to get involved. San Antonio does not need this kind of progressive curriculum in our schools for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Thank you very much for being here today, and I encourage everybody to get involved. Have a good day.